Hi everyone. In the previous session, we talked about data types, and in today's session, I will tell you regarding variables. So basically, what are the variables? So variables are it's a kind of a box where I'm going to store the values, like any type of values. It's like a integer value, it's like a floating type value, it's like a string value, or it's maybe a boolean type value. Like suppose I have just given an example like a equals to 10. So what is this 10? 10 is a value which is stored inside the variable a. And now what is this type of value? This type of value it is called as the integer value, and that's why this a variable will going to as behave as a variable which holds some value. So another example is like suppose I'm talking about apple, which is inside the double quote. That means this will be a string. So this particular thing will be considered as a string value which will going to be stored as a b. And if I'm talking about if this is the string, that means this b variable will going to behave as a string data type because it's stored as a string value, right? So if I'm talking about c equals to 4.5, that means this will be as a floating type value, and and if c will be storing the floating type value, that means the c variable which will be called as the uh, floating variable, simple as it is. Okay, so now d will be suppose is storing as a false, or if I'm talking about it will be storing as a true, so then it will be mentioned as a d behaving as a boolean data type variable. So according to the value, the variable, the data type will decide. And what is this particular value? These are the different data types of value, and according to this value the data type will decide according to the values of the variable. Now this value like going to store inside the memory, right? So basically in when I am going to tell you like this 10 or apple or 4.5 or false will going to be stored as a value inside the memory, that means where it is stored, that means that particular box, or I'm talking about a memory block, will going to be called it as a or b or c or d. That means it, in simple terms we can say that these a b c and d are the names or alias name for that particular memory location, so that we can access these particular simple values and the different types of values like. And if I will run the program regarding this, so let's check it out here. A equals to 10, and if I'm talking about b will be considered as b will be considered as a like apple or any string value. And here I'm talking about like 6.7, that means I'm talking about the floating type value. D will be storing as a boolean data type value. So if I'm going to store, I mean if I'm going to print here, so let's check it out a, and here I will just print it out as the b value. And if I'm talking about and printing as the c value, and if I'm talking about printing as the d value, so no need to just print the type of those variable. In the previous session I've already told you how to print the data type of the variable, but currently I will just demonstrate like these are the values and these are the variables which store these values. Okay, so I will just run the program and I will just execute this program, and you can just see these particular values. So basically in the simple terms, if I will tell you about the memory allocation, that means these particular four variables are storing these respective values. And if I am printing these values, so what will happen at the back end when I'm printing these values? So basically when I'm printing this value, that means this a variable will check what the value is stored inside the a memory allocation. So A is the simple memory allocation, but A is the name. It's a simple terms. It's a variable is nothing but the name for that memory allocation. So whenever I will just print out the variable name, that means at the backend the processor will give you the value which is stored inside the A. So this is simple terms. I am just accessing the value which is stored inside the B. I am just accessing which is stored the value inside the C, and same for the D. So that's why it is going to print the all values like this one. Okay, so in the next session I will tell you how to define the input statement. So basically here currently there are four variables, and these are the values defined for those respective variables. So basically these are the predefined values, or we can just say that this is the uh, not runtime values, right? Runtime values are those values which are defined or entered by the user. This is the predefined value. That means before the execution of a program, you already define those values. Okay, so this is just a kind of a initialization of a variable. Okay, so this is just a kind of a initialization. That means when you define a value, the memory will allocate for this a. When you define a apple or any value for the b variable, that means it will going to allocate the memory for b according to the number of characters and the size of the specific data type. Okay, so basically these particular values are initialized. I mean the values are initialized for the a b c d respectively, and the memory will also going to be initialized at the backend. Okay, so see you in the next one. I will tell you how to define the values for the from the user. Okay, so input statements I will tell you in the next class. So see you in the next one.